So welcome to the video number 2, the second video to the twin flame stroke sacred counterpart information. I did one last week which I felt like guided to share. As I said in my video last week, it's a little bit of a subject matter that is not always something I like to discuss because there is so much different opinion on it. And it's okay to have different opinions. It's okay to believe it, not believe it. It's what resonates with you. And I can't stress enough in these types of videos that just because somebody speaks about a certain subject matter, it doesn't mean that you have to take on board everything what somebody says. That somebody may say 50 things to you and you might just get sparked on one thing that they say, which means that was one message for you. Take that. Be a spiritual filter. You don't have to take on board everything that everybody says to you. And I said it in the last video and I'll say it again. None of us will really, truly know what it's all about. Somebody can say, yeah, I channeled this past life and you were this and you were that, and nobody will ever know. We can have a strong feeling that that could be possible, but we'll never know. Nobody can say for sure, for real, about anything. So all we have is our inner truth. If it resonates, happy days. If it doesn't, shelve it. So this is what my videos are all about anyway. I'm just here to be the oracle and to be the information giver and share with you. And as I say, if there's one thing out of the 50 things that I speak about that gets you, my work here is done. So twin flames, sacred counterparts. I have my own belief system on this. I believe that twin flame relationships are specifically put together relationships. They are couples, married couples in my eyes, or couples that are together in union, or not, actually, or not. Let's talk about that. Twin flames are actually more about separation than in union, but you can get married couples that are in separation, like myself. You can get people that have met their twin flame for the first time, said, hey, how's it going? Get this intense emotional feeling inside of them, and then never see them again, but are sat here with this feeling going, oh my God, that was my counterpart. You can have twin flames whereby you're married to somebody and they're married to somebody else, but you know that that's your twin flame. That's quite a hectic scenario. And some people can feel a deep pain and yearning inside of their body, and they might not have even met their twin, but they know that they're out there. I know certain twins that have been with their twin flame and they've passed on because their twin decided to do the work on the other side of the veil. So they left their partner in physical form and they said, right, I'm going to go back up there and I'm going to work on that side. You know, so there's a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different dynamics in twin flame. So for me, when I meet twin flames, and I meet a lot of them, and they are popping up all over the world like rapidly. I remember back in the day, twin flames used to be very, very rare. I mean, if you came across one, that was like, you know, unheard of. Now they seem to be popping up everywhere. So why is that? Because the time is right. The evolution on Earth, you know, the level or the speed at what we're ascending now as a collective, you know, it's almost like it's time for them to be here because they're very, very powerful they're power couples. Most people, in fact, all of them that I meet, they are all working very powerfully in healing the people, in healing the earth, in healing the universe. They're doing very, very powerful work for the greatest good of themselves and definitely for the greatest good of others. And obviously the universe. So, you know, there's a lot of important work that they're doing. Those are the ones that are already together. The ones that are coming together, that's the potential that they have. So that's, for me, the difference between a soulmate and the difference between a twin flame. So when people say, oh yeah, he's my soulmate, that's quite a lovely dynamic because you're just like, oh my God, as soon as we met each other, it's just like he completes me or she completes me. It's oh, love, love, love. Twin flames aren't like that. If I can speak from my experience, twin flames are, it's really hard because the whole purpose of the twin flame while you're in separation, when I say separation, it might be physically, it might be emotionally, mentally, or all of the above, but either way, you're separate. So while you're in this separation, what can happen is your twin can basically say something that can just trigger you and send you from 0 to 100 like that, or send you through a deep dark hole just by saying something that just goes inside, and then it triggers all this stuff that you haven't dealt with. It's what we call mirroring. So for example, you be sat there with your other half and they say something that just gets your back up, or you just get really angry or cross, or you get a really powerful rush of negative emotion because they've said something to you and you're just like, wow. Now you can turn around to them and go, no, blaming, your fault, your fault, your fault. Or the work of a twin is to go, wow, what is he or she showing me that I need to bring into alignment? So the reason that happens, there's a lot of misinformation that people say, oh, twin flames, they share a soul. No, they don't share a soul. I believe that they share chakras because, you know, the bottom line is I have my own soul. I'm a whole lot of whole. You don't halve me. I'm a whole lot of whole. No one completes me, because the purpose of a twin flame is to actually come into masculine and feminine balance with your energies to become whole. So how can you share, if that's your mission as a twin flame, to become whole, how can you share yourself with a twin? Because that would never come into fruition. Do you see what I'm saying? So I basically think that we share chakras, which is why you will feel what your partner is feeling on a level like you've never felt before. I know that when my husband's feeling a certain type of way, I am flattened. It's not just like, oh, his mood's affecting me. No, you're on the floor. You really, really are affected about how they feel, because you share the same chakras. You have the same channels that connect your heart to heart, throat to throat, you know, third eye to third eye. So when they're going through stuff, you go through stuff. And that's where the anger and the frustration comes with twin flames, because you're just like, ugh. But then there's that crossover again that I just spoke about, which is when you get frustrated and angry and go, keep your shit to yourself, wah, wah, wah. But if it's making you feel like that, it means they're triggering you. So you need to stop for a moment, really go into yourself and kind of feel it out and say, okay, yeah, he's got his own thing going on, but where does he end and I begin? What's going on with me and where's my part in this story? And then that's what you work on to bring into wholeness. So I'm just looking at my list here. So yeah, so that goes back to the mirroring thing again. That goes back to the mirroring thing. And I'm going to give a really good example of this because I don't mind sharing with the group because, you know, that's what I do. I'd been in Egypt. I'd come home. I'd had a whole week at home after my Egypt trip processing. No children around, no husband around. They were in Zimbabwe. I had a lovely time just processing and just being still and in my own bubble. And then a week later, my husband comes home with the kids and he's in a very, very different space to me. I'm in my heart-centered golden energy, feeling all Egyptian and goddessy. I'm in good vibes, man. And then he'd been sat in Zimbabwe, which wasn't so great as energy goes. And he came back and he was in his head. I was in my heart. So he comes in with his energy like an HGV truck, slams me and starts going, money, and we're not going to survive, and just spewing and vomiting all over me. Not literally, but just energetically. And I was like, whoa, I don't like this. What's going on with you? And he was totally in his head. He was totally in the fear. He was really worrying about money and just let me have it. And he blew me out the water. And I got really cross. And I was like, don't come in here and poke me with your negative energy. I'm all golden and goddessy. I ain't got time for that. I'm too busy being spiritual, don't you know? Well, he drop kicked me and I got spiraled into this darkness for 2-3 days. I couldn't even look at him. I was like, but straight away, I got over my stuff. And I started to look inside going, wow, what is this about? What is he showing me? And he was talking about money and he was going on and on and on about it, and it actually triggered my extreme fear towards money. My fear of failure is all entangled in there. So very quickly, I went from being cross with him, from being in his head, okay, not being in his heart, but then it kind of triggered all of my negative stuff that needs to be cleared and worked out for me to be in my wholeness, right? So he brought all of this up for me. So for 3 days, I went into this deep fear about not being successful, whatever that means, but just my extreme fear to money and all of this kind of stuff. So it was really interesting and very powerful, the place he sent me to. 3 days, 3 days. But I worked through it, I worked through it, and I came out the top and I was like, whew. So he gave me a gift, but in the initial moment, I wanted to punch him in the throat. So you see what I'm saying? Twin flame relationships, they're hard and fast. You're going to constantly trigger each other to step into your wholeness, to be whole. Which brings me on to the next subject of twin flames, codependency. But you see, as I talk about twin flames and sacred counterparts, it very, very quickly smooths into just relationships in general, because I feel a lot of this, what I'm talking about, can be applied to just relationships, friendships, intimate relationships. But codependency, we must not have any of that, because you see, codependency is another lane, another road that brings you back to not being whole. It brings you back to relying on someone else. I mean, that whole journey I went through with the fear of money with myself. You know, it was Spirit's way of saying, hey, you know, you're not fully in your power. My whole journey in Egypt was about being in my sovereignty. That was my intention. So I came back and Brendan went, bink, but you've missed that. Oh, so I went into that and I had to deal with it, because I'm codependent on him, because he's the money earner, the majority money earner at the moment, and I'm not so much. So that means I'm not fully in my power. I don't need to be controlling with money, but that area, it's a grey area. I got a little bit of fear going on there. So I need to go into that. So the codependency, that needed to go, because if I'm dependent on him, I'm not in my power. If you're dependent on alcohol, drugs, people, places, food, you are not fully in your power. You know, so you've got to really dive deep into these issues. And codependency, I think that we don't realize just how much we rely on our partners. And that's very convenient, isn't it? Because if we rely on our partners and think everything's just so, we conveniently don't have to step into our power. We conveniently go, no, everything's just fine. But you don't want to touch that hot potato. But you bullshit yourself that everything's fine. So as long as I'm relying on him or her, it's all cool, right? So going back and using my life again as another teaching example, because I think my life right now for the past 5 years holds a lot of lessons that can be, you can gain a lot from. For example, I lived in Zim for 12, 13, 14 years, whatever. And for that time, our lives were all 2.4 family, 2 kids, me and Brendan living in the same house together. Everything was fine. I was very dependent on him, but I didn't realize, because he had the business, he had the drivers for his work. So, you know, kids used to get taken to their sports after school. I could carry on working at the house, teaching my clients and whatever. You know, my car was always filled with petrol, because that's how it is in Zim. You have people that do that for you, but Brendan would organize that for me. Life was wonderful. And I was like, yeah, I'm being an adult. I'm like, yeah, everything's cool. Then all of a sudden I decided to move to Cape Town. Circumstantial events kept Brendan in Zimbabwe, and then all of a sudden we were parted. And then, let me tell you, the codependency showed itself. He doesn't deal with his emotions, and he won't mind to admit that, but he doesn't, sorry Brendan, you don't deal with your emotions. And I don't deal with all the stuff that scares me, which is paying bills, fixing things, filling up my own car, you know, dealing with parent-teacher meetings and having to go into big groups of people, stuff like that I would make Brendan go to. So all of these little things, as soon as we separated, it was hectic, it was scary, but you can understand the growth that happened when we came apart. Okay, so now we've been living our journeys the last 5 years in separation, even though we're very much married and we're very much together, and it has been hard. However, the growth and the gift, if you are aware enough and spiritually responsible enough to take it on, the growth that we've both had individually, we would never have been the same had this unexpected split happened. So sometimes when something is looking completely not good, this is the end, a death, an end is always a new beginning. That's the way you need to look at things. And you look at the benefit and the growth that happens in between. Is it scary? Yes, of course it is. You know, but we don't get dictated life through our fear, do we? We go forward and we face it anyway, you know? So that was just an explanation and an example of how my life changed through codependency. So like I say, you can apply this to many, many different relationships. But the one thing I'm going to just bring it all in to that base point again, and it's what I said to the on the other video, is effectively you choose you. In every moment you choose you. We don't realize how controlling we have become, especially as females, because we've stepped into our masculine energy a lot. You know, we like to control everything, but I think the general human being likes to control everything. What's underneath that? It's fear. So when we step into our partner's bubble and we say, do this, do that, you know, you can't fix anybody's journey. It's not for you to fix. It's not for you to rescue. Because if you dive in all the time, sorting out your partner's stuff, you are effectively stealing. It's theft. So you prevent them from walking their path, which means you are stealing their growth. Now, it sounds a little bit harsh, me saying it like that, but it's the truth. And you know it's the truth. So I took some years to understand that I have to sit on my hands sometimes and close this and just be still and allow. And there in that moment, what is my role in doing that? Brings up fear and anxiety inside of me, because what if he doesn't do it? What if it doesn't go this way? Doesn't matter. I just got to work through my anxiety and my fear of the what if. Okay, and then I need to just allow that controlling energy to start dissipating, take the layers off and release it and let go, and allow the other person their growth. It's not for us to control them. So I hope that these pearls of wisdom help, assist, and if nothing at all, that's also fine. But I just wish you good luck with your relationships, good luck with your twin flames, and yeah, enjoy your day further. Happy Tuesday.